Good morning. I'm probably the first and I hope the last presenter who's using two laptops on his own presentation. I'm well experienced professional software developer. Two screens, two keyboards, and stuff like that. This is an interactive session, so I would normally, let's say speakers don't like when someone is using their mobile phone, but today and this time I would like you to just use your mobile all the time and try to join me in this presentation. Okay, so the first thing is that the first question to you is who you are before I will present myself. Okay, I already answered this question. I'm a cleaner. I clean stuff. As we can see, okay, a lot of you already joined. Don't worry, you can join anytime. It don't have to be now. There's a time for that. As I can see, we have a lot of engineers, so the people who know, okay, probably I should call it a professional software developers. Still we have some architects, team leaders, even C-level, and others. Okay. What's wrong? Okay, so my name is Piotr Stapp. I have a quite unique name. You can sing a song, Don't Stop Me Now, until you remember. I'm working as, sorry, I need to read it, Safe System Principal Architect. I don't remember my title, which means that I work in Safe, which is, okay, long story, not for today. I have two titles, MSc of Warsaw University of Technology and Oxford Brookes University. I have my own company and stuff like that. In the night, I'm also Microsoft MVP. But all opinions are my own and do not reflect the views of any companies because I'm afraid of all the compliance guys who want to sue me or whatever. So that's all. Okay, so today we will be building an app, but as I learned doing all my way, using Agile, using Scrum, using Safe, the power is in people. Yeah, correct. Of course, the teams are doing the best and there's no other way how to create a perfect software. That's why I would like you to ask to join me to create software today. But the app today, with a lot of buzzwords, no, the app are ugly, bad. That's Michał Furmankiewicz who's creating Azure Cloud in Poland, almost building by his own hand the data center, and I'm joking, but almost. So today, the learning curve for the apps are really high. The cloud is like a drug. It's totally different world, and it's hard to learn. So that's why we invented a new buzzword, which is called internal development platform. A lot of companies, instead of building an app, they are starting to build internal development platform because it have a lot of benefits. They are designed to achieve scale and reduce time to value. They eliminated toll by offering great DevX experience and simplified operation. Key components including self-sufficient tools, common tasks, and other bullshit. But that's where we are. When we go to the platform engineering, there's a huge diagram what's going on about building internal development platforms. If you were on the Paul Stack slide, he showed the CNCF, which is quite larger, but still, it's a huge thing. So today, we'll focus on the internal development platforms. Okay, so while we are starting, we need to choose our own perfect cloud. Okay, oh my God, great. I don't need to cheat. But there's a joke here. The three biggest cloud providers are started with A. There's no G there. But because you are in Europe, we usually forgot about the Alibaba. Okay, so we will focus in the Azure today, but don't worry, it doesn't matter, to be honest. You are professionals. You know how to switch context without any problems. So first real question is, what do you think about version control? Where would you put today for your greenfield project, I will say? Source control. A lot of people choose GitHub. Microsoft is a tragic company. Nobody likes Microsoft, but still people are using GitHub. Yeah, that's true. Okay, as far as I can see, most of you prefer to use something as source control as a service. Yeah, Azure DevOps, GitHub. Only 12 people choose to. Okay, maybe more. 15 people choose self-hosted something, and still somebody decide to vote for TFS. Seriously? Okay. Don't worry. Okay, so if we go, we have this source control. The next step is simple. Let's choose the CI/CD because we cannot live without CI/CD, of course. You can choose multiple options here. You don't have to vote for the one because, let's say, people have different opinions about, let's say, building an app, hosting the infrastructure, and stuff like that. Just, oh my God, it doesn't work. No, it doesn't work. Why? I know, it's for free, yeah? It's if we think about Jenkins totally free. It only cost us years, for sure months, maybe not years, but months of working to make it, to just create a pipeline, yeah? Because you need to host it, you need to focus it, you need to think about so many things, and a lot of integration. And why I'm asking that and let's say making jokes about what's going on, because the next question is, what did you include in previous two questions? Did you include licensing model? Did you include how many CI/CD minutes per month do you have? Do you include infrastructure as a code or any other integrations? Or just, I prefer GitHub because it's cool. Yeah, it's that. I didn't. Okay, really various opinions. Probably I should add another one. Yeah, I just guessed, but we are professionals. Okay, as you can see, there was a various opinion, and still we end more or less using the source control CI/CD and Jenkins. Unbelievable. Okay, but to make, I will make a small contract here. In this presentation, I will not care a lot about money. Because if we start to think about money, it starts to be too complex just to go through a lot of topics that I would like to touch today. In real life, of course, that's the most important thing probably. So let's start with the resources, or let's say hosting. So where we would like to host our application. In Azure, we have totally, that's my incomplete list of possible way to host containers. I do not include the way how you can host your app without containers. Sorry, it will be too long. So we have Azure Container Instances, which allows us to just run a container in the cloud. We have Azure Kubernetes Service, which is Kubernetes, and I should end my sentence here. We have Azure Container Apps, which is Kubernetes, but not Kubernetes at all, because you cannot use the Kubernetes API over it. But the pricing model is totally different. But under the hood, there is a Kubernetes. Clear? Great. We have Azure Web Applications with containers or not, but we will focus on the containers. So simple server, you just run it on, let's say, old Nginx or maybe new IIS or whatever. You don't know what's under the hood, but you don't need to care. And we have virtual machines. I'll split the virtual machines in two options. One with the custom scripts, for example, go to machine, write Docker compose app, and your app is up and running. Or you have, let's say, your own cluster management, something from HashiCorp, or you have a launcher for Kubernetes and stuff like that. So you want to run your own cluster. If we think about the costs, okay, just let's say high level, not detailed, we will have static costs, so we will need to pay upfront, I will say, or a static price just for the machine use, and that works for the Kubernetes, web apps, and virtual machines. For the Azure Container Apps and Azure Container Instances, you are paying for usage. Yeah, it's quite serverless, I will say, but not exactly. The other factor is how easy it is to scale up our application. Of course, if you are using something like container apps, there's a magic thing, which is CADA, to be honest, and it can scale up our infrastructure quite easy. With the Kubernetes service, it's also easy if you provision the Kubernetes in Azure properly, and you can add a new machines there. And there are new machines there, because as far as we know already, the cloud is not infinite. And sometimes you just cannot add new machine because there are no more there. The same goes with the virtual machines. Yeah? If you have custom scripts, it's probably very, very complex, but you can do it somehow. If you are using the cluster management, it's probably the same thing as with the Kubernetes service. It's possible, but you can do it. But there's another question: if we can scale up, that's the, let's say, the easy part of the process. Sometimes you need to scale down. For example, turn off your environment for a weekend, because why to pay for it? Or after Black Friday, that's the most common example, you need to scale down. Yeah? And it's not exactly the same as it was here, because, for example, it is much slower for the Kubernetes service or virtual machines to reduce numbers of machines that your infrastructure is using. Okay, with the serverless Azure Container Apps, it should go quite smoothly, but it's not so obvious. Another factor is, of course, development experience. And I will say everybody is using Kubernetes, but probably no one knows how to do it properly. That's why I'm happy, because with Gutek or with Łukasz Kałużny, we're providing services as consultants. And that's really cool. But jokes aside, you need to learn a lot to run an app in Kubernetes properly. For example, you need to remember that your app can have multiple instances, and you do not decide when it will scale up or scale down. Kubernetes can scale up your app just because he's moving the app to another servers, which means that there will be no one instance, but two. And sometimes life sucks. If we go with the custom scripts or custom cluster management, be serious. There is no development experience at all. Yeah, of course, I, as an author of this custom script, I know how to do it today, but probably not next month. And my colleagues, they just don't know what the hell is going on. He's the DevOps guy, he knows how to run it, but we don't know. With the rest, Azure Web Apps or Azure Container Instances, it's quite easy. Just Docker and forget about it. So, again, your opinion matters. I will use following hosting. I'm really happy. Kubernetes, Kubernetes. Okay, what's really interesting for me, just as an architect, that a lot of people choose Azure Container Apps. I didn't meet a person, maybe I don't have such question. Has anyone using Azure Container Apps on production? 1, 2, 3, okay. So it's much better, and you are happy with that? Okay, okay. Still, a lot of us will choose a new shiny tool. That's normal, yeah? As a software developers, we will choose a new shiny tool just because it's a new shiny tool. Doesn't matter that no one is using it in production, we will be the first ones. Great. Sorry. Okay, let's talk about the data, or the storage if you prefer. When we are thinking about the databases, usually we are somewhere there, but our business is somewhere here. Yeah. It's a joke. Unfortunately, it doesn't. It's more complicated. But we are building a platform, so we would like to host a different system with different needs. Still, we'll need to give something here already, so integrating networking, high availability, support, and more. Because we would like to make sure that each database in our system is working quite well. So a simple question, SQL or no SQL? You know, there's this old joke, yeah? I don't know SQL, so what I will put in my CV? No SQL. Yeah, great. And what most of you know SQL, which is good, or maybe not. By the way, the NoSQL databases are almost as old or even older than the SQL databases, which make it quite funny. Okay, that was a joke. So what options do we have in Azure? First of all, we can choose self-hosted, something custom on the virtual machine. And if you really know what you are doing, it's not a bad option at all. But you need to have a people on board who understand how to manage this database. You can use Azure Storage, let's say the basic of each cloud. Yeah, the storage is the perfect. Well, okay, the storage must work really good just to have cloud because everything is based on storage. There's a Cosmos DB which is NoSQL, and what's funny, you can choose to run Postgres on Cosmos, so SQL on NoSQL database. And you have a lot of SQL as a service, MySQL, Postgres, MySQL, and MariaDB. MS SQL, I said MySQL the first one. Again, if we know what we are doing, use your own stuff on virtual machine. It could be cheaper. What about Azure Storage? Very, very cheap, simple key value or file database. Limit for maximum number of operation 20,000 per second or something like that. And for example, used by have I been pwned, so Troy Hunt who's checking if your password leaked somewhere. But the numbers are really great. If you want to use 100 gigabytes of storage and hit it 10 million times per month, you just pay $8. There's nothing cheaper. If you decide to use, let's say, platform as a service, you can choose MS SQL, MySQL, and stuff like that. You need for sure master of pricing, because master of science doesn't work here, and choose the proper pricing. There's a dynamic scaling, yes, but it's quite slow, minutes or even long minutes to make sure. There's Cosmos DB, which you can choose one of the APIs, so Mongo, Gremlin, Native, Cassandra table, and stuff like that. You can use key value, column family, documents graph, whatever you would like. There's a free ways of pricing, so standard, autoscale, and serverless. There's a dynamic scaling, yes, and it's working in a milliseconds. And there's a Postgres on board, great. But you need a PhD in pricing here, because it's really complex, and a lot of people are paying too much for the Cosmos DB, and it can be really, really expensive. What about some different databases like DB2, Oracle, and Redis? Of course, they are there, but let's reduce the number. And why I'm talking a lot about Postgres, for example, because that's Wojtek Ptak. He's head of something in Revolut, and he have a great presentation about hypergrowth scaling made simple. And he's saying that, and he said that they are using everything on Postgres. So they don't have queues, they use Postgres. They don't have event bus, they use Postgres. They have a database, they use Postgres. They don't have a separate event store, they use Postgres, and stuff like that. And we are talking about Revolut. So quite large scale. Nice to something nice to, let's say, to listen and to get what's going on. But the database that I already tried to mention are the top 10 from the DB Engines ranking. And number 9. Yeah? Great. Okay. So we have all the options, time for voting. I'm really happy. Excel 365, yes. Thank you. Postgres everywhere. I should delete this slide about Wojtek Ptak probably. We want to do the same as Revolt, aren't we? Of course we are. Okay, SQL as a service winning. Still, it could be Postgres, so. Okay, more or less, most of you decide to use SQL, which is probably obvious after the first SQL and NoSQL. Still, Excel 365. Thank you. Thank you all for it. Thank you, really. I believe that we can create a startup called Access in the Cloud or something like that. That should work like a charm. Okay, so when we go to the services, or queues to be honest, and zoom it to the platform engineering, we have RabbitMQ, ActiveMQ, Amazon SQS, Amazon Service Bus, Google PubSub, Elasticsearch. Why here? Kafka and Azure Service Bus. If we talk about, let's say, ActiveMQ versus Service Bus, more or less it's already in the, let's say, in the Azure, you can use it, but you need to, of course, you need some infrastructure as a code, infrastructure as a service for the ActiveMQ, or you can use it, the version of Amazon MQ if you really want, and stuff like that. It's working. Why RabbitMQ and AMPQ? It's different because there's a problem with the protocol, but I will skip it here. If you would like to use a Kafka client, you can use Azure Event Hub. It supports Kafka, let's say, all the Kafka clients, so it's quite well. Of course, there are some mappings, cluster, its namespace, topics, and Event Hub, and so on. Who cares? There's a quite long queue, long queues of queues, I will say. So let's choose one. I added Postgres again, if you decide. The main difference is if you would like to use something self-hosted or not. And to be honest, I broke the service bus in my lifetime. I broke the event hump. but still hosting a Kafka cluster, my private opinion, is quite difficult. My God, seriously? Okay. To be honest, I'm surprised. Seriously? So many RabbitMQ lovers? Okay. Let's go. What's going on today? Monitor and logging. Another important part of the software, because each software needs something for logging, but there's so many tools that it's really difficult to decide what we really need. And if we go to the Azure, we have metrics, we have alerts, we have logs, application insight, container insight, virtual machine insights, network insights. Usually it goes to the one tool, but it's not. It's much more, because sometimes you need to, for example, include SCOM or SIEM, and the part of the logging system is Power BI. Don't ask me. Sometimes it's good. Of course, there's a Power BI, let's say, to visualize what you can do in the Grafana. There's so many different tools just to get logs from the different part of your application that you need a PhD just to understand what's going on. And you will pay for it probably as much as for the rest of the infrastructure, which is mind-blowing. And I know, I can see that I'm not the only one. So, just to make an incomplete list of the logging. So we have a simple application insights. We could have Azure Monitor, which encapsulates monitoring, alerts, and stuff like that. We can have Grafana or Azure Managed Grafana, which costs so much that it's unavailable. We could have a Prometheus or Azure Monitoring Managed Service for Prometheus, or self-hosted Elasticsearch with Kibana, or a huge list. Again, I need your opinion. You are engineers, you know what you are doing. Exactly. That's really crazy that we spent so much time just to choose the tool for monitoring, and moreover, when we are talking with the developers, they will say application insights. Yeah, we can put the logs there. If we are talking about the infrastructure guys, they will say Grafana or Prometheus. Yeah. If we talk about, let's say, making alerting systems, or let's call them DevOps, yeah, they will say Azure Monitor usually, because you have a whole alerting system. What? Still, no monitoring, no problem. Thank you very much. I just believe that we can create a really good app. The last but not least, probably, what to do about accounts and passwords. Long time ago, it was totally obvious, and the recipe was totally simple. Just take one technology that you love, apply the first tutorial about user accounts, or copy some stuff from the previous project, and it was working like a charm. In my case, it was a small delay. .NET framework, a good one, not the bad one. I mean, for sure not the perfect one, but I believe a good one. I will avoid problems with the base64, SQL injection, and in PHP, Node.js, Java, situation is really similar. The points will be probably different. But still, why I'm talking about base64? Because it's still a valid question, because a lot of some frameworks, some libraries are storing the passwords in, encrypting the password in base 64. Great. But today, the list is longer, of course, and again, we need to make a decision. There are dedicated tools for user management like Active Directory or OpenLDAP, and probably if you are working even in small startup, you're using one of these tools, just for the user management. I'm not sure if it's the best option for our internal development platform, but for sure for my PC, it's the best option to integrate with the company Active Directory. We have ready to deploy stuff like Keycloak on Identity Server, just dedicated tools which you can self-hosted to run, to have a user management. And you have some software as a service like Auth0, Userbase, or Azure B2C. So what are our candidates? Still, you can use self-hosted thing, so your own Nugget, Maven, whatever, with some support. You can use Active Directory, OpenLDAP, or tools like that. You can use Keycloak Identity Server, and more. Or you can choose to use something outside of your domain. So use Azure with Auth0, use SaaS inside Azure with Azure B2C, or totally unknown SaaS. $89, and you have it for all servers for the lifetime. I know price is not everything, but I know that you don't care about it. I still believe. But it's quite cheap. Okay, so SaaS features. Facebook, Twitter, GitHub, integration, logging. MFA with application and SMS. Feeder 2, custom domain, custom CSS. And to be honest, they are not available everywhere. For example, for a long time, there was a really great, huge problem with custom domain in Azure B2C. Or adding custom CCS there is a nightmare. Still, okay, I will skip about the pricing. Of course, I told you that the user base is the cheapest option, but let's try it. What do you think? What will be the best option for the user storage in internal development platform for the all application you will have on board? Just, just to make it a smooth development experience, just make it run and forget about it. I'm good. I said I just convinced 2 people to vote for the random thing. They even didn't okay, if you click the web page, probably you won't vote for it. But still, I'm proud of myself. Okay, so we have more or less. Okay, that's strange. I will say that's strange. Okay, you will decide to use Auth0 or Active Directory. Okay. More or less, that's the end. We built a huge thing. I will go through each stage, each question, so you will have a chance to look what we designed together. First of all, most of you are engineers, and so you know how to build stuff properly. We have, well, let's say 40 minutes or something like that, so typical meeting to make an architecture decision. So it's a valid point. Most of you know a lot about Azure, but still you work in the cloud. It's great. You will use GitHub or Azure DevOps, and even 2 persons will use. Okay, someone already voted for Bitbucket. You will use TFS. I would like to meet you. Just don't ask me. And I will say that that's funny thing that most of the developers will use GitHub, even if they will say Windows sucks, Microsoft sucks, let's use everything except the Microsoft, but we will use GitHub. Yeah, that's good. That's funny thing. You included a lot in the previous decision, so this GitHub, it's a really valid option, even if the pricing of the CI/CD is quite high. And if you would like to use GitHub Enterprise with the Copilot over your code, it's really expensive. But we will host our code on the Kubernetes. That's good, and we will use mostly SQL. That's awesome. As a messaging system, we'll probably you decide to use Azure Service Bus or RabbitMQ. That's funny. And we decide to not use monitoring because it's too problematic. Our data user storage probably will be in Active Directory or Auth0, which is funny. So we know how to store our code, we know how to host our app, we know how to deploy it, we know how to monitor it, we know how to store data, we know how to manage users. Are we ready to deploy? Yes, of course. Let's use my own AI for that and see what's going on. Your deploys will be like a dance. Sounds good, sounds valid. And I think that's the main problem. Yeah, that even that so many opinions, especially in Agile, create something like that, that after a few years, you are shocked why we are here, why we are adding new tools and creating so spaghetti something. I won't say code because, okay, every spaghetti as a code, or spaghetti as a code probably will work here. So that's the end. If you have any questions, you can ask Cloud or you can just go here. If you would like, let's say, to ask me something in private, you can scan the code. There's my LinkedIn, my Twitter, my email, and stuff like that. Thank you very much. I hope that you have fun. And see you later, alligator.